Uh, okay, so I'm not able to see the screen. That's why I thought I'm not able to see participants list here. That's why I thought maybe I'll just check once. Okay, anyway, I hope you're able to see the content which I have displayed here, right? Okay. Yeah. And okay. So as discussed, what do we do today is we will check the other topic that we have listed for our discussion. That's on urban heat island and its mitigation. Okay. So what is heat island and how is it formed? What are the causes, all that, and also what are the mitigation measures that we have in hand to address the issue of heat. And also we'll see at the end of the discussion, I think in last discussion we did not, we wanted to go in little bit deep on climate consultant. Okay, so we'll also see I'll take you through the tool so that you know what is climate consultant and what information that you can extract from it. Okay, so now to begin with, we'll have this discussion and then we'll go to that topic of extracting data from climate consultant. So what is the intent of this discussion is to understand the phenomena of UHI and various strategies used for mitigation of UHI. Okay, so before we actually see the technical aspects, and I'm very sure this is familiar for all of you, right? What is UHI and how does it impact city? Am I right? Yeah. Okay. So we are talking about UHI from the climate perspective. Okay, so we are visualizing, or we want to analyze the city as such from climate perspective. Okay, so city climate, actually there are different scales of urban climate that sorry, there are different scales of climate that we can understand. Okay, so when we talk about urban climate or the city climate, we are talking about a microclimate that prevails within a specific area. Okay, so a microclimate is a climate of a small area that is different from its surrounding. It may be warmer or colder, or it depends. Okay, so there's a huge difference between, not huge, a slightly gradual difference between the city and as we move away from the city. Okay, and as we enter into the other suburb. So microclimate is a climate conditions of a nearest 100 meter ground level. When we talk about climate, or when we talk about microclimate, we are talking about what is the environment at 100 meters from the surface level. Okay, so because we don't have right now, we do have, but actually it is not very common in all the meteorological departments to gather information from the ground level. Okay, we don't have sensors placed in city where we can actually measure the temperatures at ground level. Okay, and also in some cases that kind of information may not be or slightly, it will be, let's say if you are measuring temperature, the surface temperature at ground will be slightly higher than what we actually see temperature. There are certain protocols for measuring temperatures as well. So for the definition of microclimate, this is measured at 100 meters from the ground level. Okay, so we are discussing actually this in the perspective of heat islands. So microclimate may be quite small. Okay, a protected courtyard is an example. Okay, we always see, okay, if you go to lawn, or if you go to the backyards of our house, we feel, okay, this is slightly pleasant. Why? Because of various things. Maybe the courtyard or the backyard is shaded, it has a tree, or it has some water body, something, or the surface of the backyard or the courtyard is natural. Okay, this is not a paved surface, something like that. So it can be, we can in fact talk about microclimate at that scale to a large scale, at city scale also we can talk. Okay, so the phenomena that we are talking now, we are discussing now, is at city scale. Okay, so this should not be misunderstood at micro scale. Okay, for example, that's why I'm bringing this point here. So urban heat island, this is a phenomena, okay, where heat is trapped inside city for various actions that we have taken. Okay, so urban areas influence the atmosphere through a number of processes. Urban areas are influenced by a number of parameters, where because of which the heat is generated in the city, and it accumulates in the city itself. Okay, so one is, of course, we will go in detail, but just to give an overall view of what are we discussing. Okay, one is about paved surface. Okay, a paved and concrete surface that we have, as a result a lot of heat penetrates. Okay, and the surfaces get heated up. Okay, and in turn it reflects back all the heat into the urban environment. Okay, and the pollutants that we emit from the vehicles, that's also one of the causes, one of the major cause for increase in heat within the city. Okay, and also other aspects like meteorological aspect, and also from the building perspective, building and planning perspective also. In fact, we will go in little detail about all this in little while. I'm just putting you into context that what are we discussing, and how do we look at the issue of urban heat islands. Okay, so normally this is uh, actually temperatures of city are higher than surrounding areas. This is what we are saying. This is actually measured or connected like a contour lines. Okay, I hope you understand the word contour lines, right? In the plans and in the site plans, we must have seen this kind of line, which tells you what is the elevation level of this line. Okay, what is the elevation level of this line, elevation levels of this line. Similarly, in heat or in climate also, climate studies also, the temperatures are mapped in the form of contours called isotherms. Okay, so each one curve determines one isotherm, one island. Okay, and we will have series of such islands being created. Okay, so it depends on the temperature that is observed in this area, and a small island is created as a result of it. Okay, let's say here this is an indicative one, 11 degrees Celsius. Okay, this wherever you measure within this part, the temperature is 11 degrees Celsius. Okay, so like this, even if you see the meteorological maps, okay, sometimes you will get maps like this, where it will tell you the temperature variation, temperature gradients, along a specific city or interest area. Uh, and yes, yes, yeah, no. There are two ways. If we talk about UHI, then it is not only temperature, it is a mixture of so many other things. If we see from meteorological perspective, if they talk about only air temperature, then it is only air temperature which is measured at 100 meters from the ground level. Okay, and if we let's say if we are doing a study at courtyard level, let's say if you have a campus and you have a school building or some building, the scale of the case study or the scale of study that you have taken is just a building or a small complex. There the measurement should be taken at not at ground level. This is called working table level. Okay, normally between 900 750 centimeters to 900 centimeter. So if you I don't know if you are aware how the temperatures are measured. Now we have devices for measuring temperatures, right? So it is actually kept in a stand. Okay, so the height at which the measuring instrument is kept is at around 90 centimeters. Okay, so temperature is measured at 90 centimeter if the scale is small, if the scale is building. In cities we don't have devices like this, or we don't have sensors to measure temperatures at this scale. Maybe it will come. This is all new things that is coming up, and maybe in another 5-10 years we may have sensors kept at this level also to measure what is the temperature that we have and how do we tackle it. At the moment, yes, 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 yes. There will be variations. Yes. In fact, we will see how the variations occur. Maybe this may also help you in understanding that. See, this is surface temperature. Okay, this is surface temperature measured. Okay, and this is air temperature. Air temperature is what we see. Okay, what we see from news or what we see from the meteorological department. Okay, air temperature is what we actually get from the weatherman. Okay, so this is air temperature, but actually if you see the surface temperature, if you measure at the ground, it's like you also said the temperature is actually much higher than what is the air temperature around. Okay, so why this is okay, this is one phenomena. Similarly, this is the dotted line that you see is air temperature. Okay, the thick line that you see is actually the measured surface temperature, which is in the night, which is more or less same as that of air temperature. Why? Because the heat that is trapped in the surfaces are exhausted. Okay, and as a result you can the air temperature in the night is almost equal to the surface temperature. Okay, so these two things you can understand. One, if you see from the city perspective, we have the built fabric, this main core city area where we have high dense urban fabric. Okay, and then gradually you have you go into rural areas. Similarly, it happens here. If you observe the temperature, okay, so even air temperature remains same, but the surface temperature goes up. Even in the night time, the surface temperature is higher. Okay, in city area. Okay, that if you see this in the rural areas, it is slightly, this difference is UHI. Okay, the increase in temperature within the city, okay, within the city is the excess temperature that we add because of various interventions that we have in the city. Okay, so this is one of the major issues that we face in not only in India and elsewhere as well. Okay, so this is this problem needs to be addressed from planning and from architectural and other infrastructural aspect. So this is one of the commonly studied research topic. So if you go little deep, or if you go into little theoretical and scientific aspects of how this heat uh, is added into the city, you can see that this is one I have taken from one reference, same as this. Okay, so typical summer temperature, rural energy balance. What happens? There are certain things that comes in, the certain things goes up. What is that is coming in? A solar incident solar radiation of X number is coming in. Okay, reflected solar radiations. We know that all the sun rays, once it hits the surface of the earth, okay, there is a X quantity of solar radiation is coming into the surface. Okay, and some of it is absorbed and some of it is reflected back. Okay, so similarly you have infrared radiations coming in. Okay, how much resultant is absorbed and how much is sent back, is some X quantity is sent back. Latent heat, okay, what is exhausted from these is also one quantity. If we compare this with the this rural context with the urban energy balance, you can see point. Okay, for our understanding, okay, just compare the numbers. 7.6 is the solar incident radiation that is coming in. The same quantity is you can observe in the urban areas. Okay, reflected solar radiation is 1.9 that you can see in the rural context. Okay, but here you can see only 0.4 is reflected back. Okay, 1.5 units of solar radiation is trapped here. Okay, and further if you see outgoing infrared radiation is slightly higher, and latent heat. Okay, so here twice the amount is exhausted. Here only half of the energy is exhausted. So as a result of this, the heat is trapped within the city itself. Okay, so if we compute all this, we will be in a position to know how much heat is actually uh, uh, trapped here and how much what do you say. Okay, just one second. Yeah, I'm not able to get this. Wait a minute. No. Yeah, so if we are able to quantify this, how much energy is coming and how much heat is coming into the surface and how much is absorbed and how much is exhausted, so the resultant of the resultant heat that is added to the city is what we are trying to address from UHI perspective. So urban, suburban and rural communities are the three main types of developed environments. All three of these environments have both common and unique land cover types. Okay, so we know that, right? So some of these three urban setup has different land use patterns and building patterns and so on. Okay, so each land cover may affect the air temperature differently because of its unique thermal property. What is this unique thermal property? For example, let us say in cities we may have all the paved surfaces. Okay, whereas the rural it is not the case. Okay, so the kind of impact that the paved surface will have is different from what the unpaved surface will have. Okay, so yeah, impervious surface. Okay, a hard surface area that either prevents or stops the energy of water that into the soil, and as a result, the heat is trapped, or the heat is prevented, or the from further exhaustion. Maybe let us say if we have soil that if we have natural soil, probably the heat may get dissipated because of the coolness of the soil. Since we have hard paved surface, okay, it will start retaining the heat content of it. Okay, common impervious surface we know: rooftop, walkways, patios, driveways, parking lots, storage area, concrete, all paving and whatever we see in the outdoor environment, most of it. And it also it has impact on the natural. Also, it has impact on the natural urban runoff as well. That also you should keep in mind. Okay, so see, this is one indicative diagram. If we have a natural ground and if we have impervious surface, what happens? Okay, 25% of the, of course, we know that how much water is, how much water percolates into the earth surface, okay, and how much is blocked as a result of paved, okay, surfaces we have in cities. And this is not only affecting the runoff, okay, it is not only affecting the ground recharge potentials of the land, but it also affects the heat. Okay, we are talking from the heat perspective, urban heat island perspective. Yes. Yeah. 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 Of course, it depends. We will see in probably in some slides. If we have reflected surfaces, what happens? If we have non-reflective surfaces, what happens? And what is the ideal? Is the technical or the correct word is albedo. Okay, so we will see in the further slides the technical aspect of it. uh, do we use high albedo value material or low albedo value material? Albedo is nothing but what you are talking about, the reflectivity of the material. Yeah. Okay, so the impervious surface can affect the local stream and so on and so forth. Impervious surface can also affect the temperature of the region. That's what we are actually discussing about. And why we are discussing too much, little deep about the surfaces is uh, one of the major mitigative measures that we discuss from the perspective of UHI is about impervious surface. Okay, so how do we avoid this impervious surface? How do we bring that porosity into the material that we use in planning and design of buildings and cities? Okay, so as urban areas develop, changes occur in the landscape. Buildings, roads, and other infrastructure replace open land and vegetation. Surfaces that were once permeable and moist become impermeable and dry. That's the reason for it. These changes cause urban regions to become warmer than their rural surroundings, forming an island of higher temperature, which is called as UHI. Yeah. Okay, so heat islands occur on the surfaces and atmosphere. It can also, the higher temperatures can also be observed at the surface level because of this reflectivity of the material that we use. Also, it affects the atmospheric temperature as well. Not too high, at the, let's say at the level of 100 meters and below. Okay, so on a hot sunny day, the sun can heat the exposed urban surfaces such as roofs and pavements to a temperature up to 27 to 50 degree. Okay, and this is quite common. Okay, in not 50 degree, but maybe in the desert climates in Rajasthan we do measure 50 degrees Celsius. In Vijayawada last time we have this summer we recorded up to 48 degrees Celsius. So and this is, it's not directly in cities. Okay, so when we say 48 degrees, it is not the direct air temperature that we are talking about. It's also the combination of all this excess heat that gets absorbed in the city because of UHI. Surface urban heat islands are typically present in daytime and in nighttime, but it can be strongly felt in the strongest duration during the day when the sun is shining. Okay, so actually there are two ways of looking at it. uh, what is heat island? Heat island is we receive heat, okay, during daytime. Sun emits we receive a lot of solar radiations coming into the surface of the earth, okay, and some of it is it's trapped, okay, and it will release heat only when the air temperature is lesser than, when the air temperature goes lesser than the temperature that is observed. Okay, so only in some cases that happens only in the night time. Okay, so generally UHI is studied in the night times. Okay, where after the ambient air temperature goes down, the heat, the excess heat that is trapped in the cities and the build form is emitted into the outdoor environment. In contrast, atmospheric heat can also be studied in the similar way, like we are talking at building level, but the temperature difference may be slightly different. Okay, the annual mean air temperature of city with 1 million population, uh, and it can be a difference of 1 to 3 degree Celsius only. Okay, and in the night time it can be observed 12 degrees Celsius difference can also be observed as a result of UHI. Okay, so why do we study about it? Okay, so this is an issue from different perspective. Heat islands can affect communities by increasing the summer peak time temperatures, energy demand during summers, air conditioning requirements and cost, increase in pollution level, okay, of course greenhouse gas emission as well, and heat related issues, heat stroke and other related illnesses because of excess heat that we face. So if you see from major how UHI impacts the major aspects, increase in energy consumption. Okay, higher temperatures in summer means we will start using the cooling devices. We'll start using turning on ACs for longer time, because the temperature is higher. We will not be comfortable within the built fabric, so we'll be using more energy for it. Okay, so there are studies done. Okay, one study estimates that the heat island is responsible for 5 to 10% of the total peak energy that is used for in cooling demand. Okay, so this is one in this way. This is one way of looking at UHI studies. Okay, so how it is impacting energy consumption, what I can do to reduce UHI. Okay, one. Second thing is increase emission. Second thing is increased emission, where as a result of the number of vehicles and number of new industries that has come out. Just hold on a minute, I will come. Okay, sorry about that, some interruption. Okay, so the second aspect of second aspect in which this needs to be this is studied, UHI is studied, is from the perspective of emission. Elevated emissions of air pollutants and greenhouse gas will also create heat. It will, it's called anthropogenic heat. Okay, the heat that is generated by vehicles, all that. Okay, and that will also create some kind of a heat, and that remains trapped in the city. Okay, so there are many studies done in this line as well, where how do we cut down the emission levels and bring down the temperature of the city. And of course it affects why this has to be studied is because it affects the human well-being and the human comfort. Okay, warmer days and nights, okay, that's one reason, right, why actually we should be studying this. Okay, and along with that, higher pollution levels can contribute to general discomfort and other diseases, respiratory diseases that we may have to face as a result of increased UHI. Then it will also affect the quality of water, and it will also affect the quality of water percolation that it should actually take place. Okay, so many environmental studies have been done on how because of the increased non-permeable layers, the ecosystem is getting affected. Okay, and in fact in there's one PhD that is going on with one of my students is working on how change in topography impacts the runoff, flood water runoff. So in fact how impervious layer, there is a component of impervious layer here as well. Because of it, it affects the runoff coefficients of the rainfall. Okay, so if we have altered the topography, if we have excess, or if we have altered the natural terrain, and if we have created the impervious surfaces which are excess, and its impact on UHI, its impact on runoff can be studied, and it has implications on other aspects of it. Okay, what are the causes for it? We have seen some of it in the beginning itself, like industrial activities, cooling and heating. Okay, major aspect is heat production. Okay, maybe because of industrial activities, maybe because of cooling and heating. Cooling here in the sense the ACs that we use. Okay, and heating in the sense maybe the equipments that we use. Okay, as a result of it, or the vehicles and transportations and other infrastructure, heavy infrastructure that we have in city, that also generates anthropogenic heat. Okay, and also increase in concentration of people. This is also, we also emit heat. Okay, if you have read about the heat energy balance between men and the immediate environment, we also generate heat, we also dissipate heat into the environment. Okay, our body, let's say if we sweat, so that means we are our body tries to bring the temperature down. Okay, it wants to cool. So that heat also has to be considered, and that heat also is considered in quantification of UHI. Okay, changes in composition of atmospheric atmosphere, that means increase greenhouse gas, CO2 emissions. Okay, in the greenhouse effect. Okay, because of these are the reasons. These are some of the reasons that adds to UHI. Increase in turbidity, pollution level. Okay, pollution level in the air causes also increases UHI. Increase in counter radiation. Increase in counter radiation is, you can understand, the reflective surfaces that we have from the building and the rooftop. Okay, so what kind of material that we should wisely use so that the heat is not totally reflected back as well. Okay, so there should be a balance in that. Hindrance in heat dispersion, that means we are obstructing, okay, the path of heat dissipation. Okay, the best example can be, you have a tree, okay, and let's say the sunlight falls here, and the hot air rises and it will get accumulated here. Okay, it will get accumulated under, just under the foliage of the tree. Okay, so here from theoretical perspective, this tree is a hindrance to dissipation of heat. Okay, that's how you understand this. And other way of looking at is, for example, let us say you are these are streets, okay, and we have one huge building that is kept here, and this is supposed to be natural wind direction. Okay, and let's say these are lanes and these are buildings, a lot of buildings are here, and these trees will help in dissipating heat. Okay, but this building which is right in front of this may act as a hindrance to further dissipate the heat. It will just channelize here or here, okay, rather than dispersion. Gradual loss of urban forest. Okay, I don't think we need much explanation on this. Vegetation play a major role in bringing the temperature down. Okay, and if we continue to lose most of vegetation, and that is a cause of concern for us. Impermeability of materials, we have seen this. Natural soils have been replaced by impermeable materials such as asphalts and other building materials that will have an impact on this. In fact, soil infiltration rate in city is only 15%, and the quantity of rainwater runoff is 55%. Whereas in natural environment, approximately 50% of rainwater infiltrates into soil, and only 10% of water is runoff actually. This is a good comparison between what happens in a city and what happens in the rural context. So choice of material in all this is very important. Another thing is thermal properties of the material, thermal properties of building material, and also the surface treatment of the material. That is also is important. Impermeable surfaces and building materials influence the microclimate and thermal conditions, since they absorb considerable heat during day, which they release back into atmosphere at night, thus contributing to your urban heat islands. Okay, and we talked about this. Low albedo materials can reach temperature of 80 degrees Celsius in summertime. Okay, so we said I was telling you maximum of 27 to 50 degree Celsius. Okay, that's air temperature. Okay, surface temperature, when we measure materials temperature, okay, and in maybe in extreme condition, let's say in Rajasthan or in any other dry climate, okay, and if if you use low albedo materials, okay, where it will store heat, okay, the temperature can go exponentially. Urban planners and architects select materials on the basis of various technical requirements. However, we should pay more attention to this kind of environmental studies when we select appropriate materials in all this case. And how about urban morphology? Urban morphology is the structure of city. Okay, so the building fabrics of how the building fabrics are laid, okay, and how it is connected. Both has an impact. The city size and the urban fabric, urban morphology also has an impact on the UHI. Okay, so which relates to three-dimensional form of the city. Okay, large buildings and narrow street can hamper good ventilation for urban areas because they create canyons where the heat generated by solar radiations and human activity accumulates and remain trapped. There are two ways of looking at this. You must have read in some cases narrow streets are better. If you have gone to Chandni Chowk, the inner lanes and very small alleys there, you will feel very comfortable. Okay, sometimes in some climate some climatic zone, narrow streets will help. In some climatic zones, narrow street will not help. Okay, so accordingly, the design of layouts has to be considered, and the decisions are has to be made. Okay, so this also you can just keep in mind. Maybe will not go in deep how it is impacting the climate and so on and so forth. Anthropogenic heat, we discussed about it. Okay, what are the other heats? The heat coming out from vehicles and other infrastructure facilities and air conditioning systems that we have, and that also adds to the city. And the magnitude of impact depends on the size of the city. Okay, it depends on the local microclimate, topography, diurnal and weekly variation. Diurnal is temperature difference between day and night. Okay, so how does that impact the impact of UHI? And seasonal variation. Okay, different seasons have different different magnitude of UHI. Okay, so building density also has an impact, and if it is away from the city, that will also the magnitude of UHI will vary. Okay, so large cities will obviously will have high impact, high UHI. Smaller cities will have weak and low UHI. And also from the local microclimatic perspective, if we have strong wind, okay, that will help in dissipating the heat. So as a result, we will have weak UHI. But at the same time, if we don't have if the prevailing wind is not so strong and so strong enough to dissipate or take the heat from the city, then we may encounter higher, or will observe higher UHI. Similarly, if the cloud cover is high, okay, again we'll have strong UHI. That means the 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 heat, okay, that is dissipated from the city doesn't have opportunity to exhaust, okay, because the clouds are covered. Okay, and as a result, that will also have an impact on overall temperature of the city. Topography, the effects will be less pronounced among oceans, river, lakes, woods, pastures, and areas of higher elevation. So if this no city or no land is flat, so the type of natural element that we have and the type of topography and elevation that we have in the city, that will also impact the magnitude of UHI. Okay, more diurnal variation we have discussed in some case. The UHI is more observed in the nights. Okay, so and also we this variations occur because of the excess usage and other aspect as well. Okay, man-made things as well, it can happen. And of course during monsoon, during summer and during winter, the magnitude here in the sense is only temperature. You can observe how much temperature is added, extra added to the air temperature. Building density, okay, higher density will have of course higher impact, and as far as city is concerned, if we are away from the city center, the lesser magnitude that we can observe. Okay, so these are some graph to just to explain the same thing. Okay, if you have this is city plotted against the magnitude of heat island. Okay, if the size increases, magnitude of UHI increases. Okay, wind speed, it is a counterproductive. Okay, with increasing wind speed, the magnitude of heat island decreases. Cloud cover and city is synonymous, it will behave in the same way. Building density also plays in the same way. Okay, city center is gradual. Okay, so it is not linear, it is exponential one, gradual one. And of course, variation within the city, there are so many other things that we can discuss. For example, let us say temperature difference within the city may not be the same, okay, because of this. So for example, street interaction will have slightly better because it is ventilated from all sides, okay. So if the road is heavily used, we may observe 2 degree higher than other roads. And if in this traffic signals, we it is the studies suggest, the study has observed that 2 to 3 degree higher temperature can be observed in these kind of places. And of course, in the this is in terms of horizontal, and in terms of vertical also there will be a difference based on the kind of structure that we have, the immediate environmental conditions that we have, and pollution levels that we have. Okay, inversion of pollution, if we have high concentration of pollutions, then again that will have an impact. So there is something called pollution dome, and where there is a high what is it levels of pollutions are observed, the higher temperatures are observed in that area. Why? Because these are this acts as a barrier for the heat to dissipate, and this is one thing that we should keep in mind. And okay, these are issues, but how do we address this? And if you see from the overall perspective, the issues are from the material that we use, okay, the kind of density that we have, population size, okay, and vegetation cover, fine. So, and also the anthropogenic heat that is coming from the vehicles and other use of mechanical devices or cooling devices that we use. So there are many urban heat island mitigation studies, and they draw on expertise of various professional fields, including urban planning, architecture, natural resources management, transportation, etc. These mitigation strategies have a positive impact on both local climate as well as the overall climate of the city. So these are majorly classified under greening measures, okay, urban infrastructure related measures, that is directly related to planning and architecture, and stormwater and soil permeability related one, okay, and we have anthropogenic heat reduction. So the strategies or the mitigation measures that is taken can be broadly classified under these categories. Like we said in the beginning, vegetation plays a major role. A number of studies have demonstrated that greater importance of vegetation and protection of existing green spaces and woods in the area in countering heat islands. A number of studies has been done. In fact, there are studies being done here also on how this evergreen trees help in mitigating heat islands. Okay, so there are studies being done on how a tree, single tree, and its impact, and how does it help in reducing the heat immediate. How does it help in making a better microclimate in this aspect. Okay, so vegetation and cooling is one, okay, where urban greening strategies, selective planting of trees, greening of parks, parking lots, okay, vegetation around buildings, green walls, green roofs, okay. So these are some of the measures that is taken from vegetation and cooling perspective. And the second measure or second mitigation measure is from the building perspective. Okay, so building we have actually seen in last class. One is through passive strategy, one is through active strategy, and we have seen building is one of the major component in overall city climate, how the city functions. Uh, it, 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 it it depends majorly on how this building works. Okay, so building is one of the major component, and how it has to be protected from excess heat. That is one thing that we should also mind. Second thing is reflective material. Okay, the higher reflective material, that means higher albedo and emissivity of material, the less likely that it will store heat and radiate back to the atmosphere. Okay, so if we use higher albedo materials, higher reflective materials, okay, so it is lesser likely, it will not what is it, uh, it, uh, it will not heat, it will not higher reflective materials, so that means it will not store heat. Okay, so whatever it comes, it will throw back. Okay, so the reflectivity of surface determines its ability to reflect solar radiation. Albedo is represented in a scale of 0 to 1. A high albedo, for example 0.7, means the surface reflects almost 70%, almost whatever the solar radiation that is coming into the surface. Okay, so the right choice of material is very crucial. In fact, when we say right choice of material, this includes for the building envelope and the pathways that we have and the road as well. Okay, in all cases, right appropriate material has to be chosen. And also a lot of studies have been done on how do we treat the rooftops. Okay, so that's also important, and I think there's some discussion on that as well, I guess. And of course, bioclimatic architecture is another is one of the ways which is encouraged. Okay, to design buildings. Like bioclimatic architecture is designing buildings by taking the local climate into perspective. Okay, so we have seen in passive techniques also, not all techniques are applicable. So like this, not any design will not work in any place. Okay, so the buildings has to be designed in such a way, taking into all the local climate and into perspective. Okay, from building design, building envelope to orientation of the building, bioclimatic architecture makes every effort to ensure that thermal comfort of building occupant thus is protected. Okay, so that's one way of mitigating heat. Building insulation and air tightness. Okay, and apart from the design, the material, apart from the reflective material that we discussed, we should also talk about how much heat that will come through walls, windows and roof. In last time we have seen, okay, how a building works from aperture, from where the heat is absorbed, where the heat is, which are the major sources of heat. Okay, so designing those things also helps in mitigating the heat islands. Thermal inertia, this also we have discussed last time, where we should know what is the thermal mass of the building that we use and what is time lag, and appropriate choice of building material for walls and roof has to be chosen. Okay, and of course window. Okay, this is synonymous to what we discussed last time also. Windows are the weak point of building thermal insulation. Okay, so this has to be designed and appropriate. For example, there are smart low E glasses. Okay, double or triple glazed windows, and so many new stuffs are there. So accordingly, the material has to be chosen. And of course, whatever we are talking is about material building. Of course, there are there are passive and active techniques that should be incorporated into the buildings, so that the building performs much better. Okay, and in fact we have discussed this in the passive strategies also, how shading elements are important in design of these buildings. Other component is road infrastructure. Okay, what what kind of uh, pavements, what kind of material that we use in pavements and road surfaces, okay, so that the heat is not trapped into the city and it is rightly emitted back. Okay, to summarize, what are the different measures that can be considered as UHA mitigation from building perspective? One is protect from solar radiation. Okay, other, we can see how do we reduce the heat coming into the building. Okay, reducing the atmosphere, the anthropogenic heat, okay, from vehicles and so on. Maintaining comfortable thermal environment is what we are actually uh, desiring for. So protecting from solar radiations, let's say we can have vegetations, we can have shading devices. We have seen different types of shading devices, internal, external, and so on. And under planting of vegetation, we have green roofs, green walls, okay, vegetation around buildings and so on. This is from stopping the solar radiation, and this is from mitigating perspective, so minimizing perspective. Built form, designing a appropriate built form, built envelope with appropriate use of materials, appropriate insulation material, making sure that there is no gaps and for heat coming into the building and so on. Reflective use of appropriate albedo materials, okay, use of thermal mass, appropriate thermal mass into the building will also help in minimizing the infiltration of heat, okay, so that the inside environment is much comfortable. Okay, so this is like trying to stop heat from entering into the building. This is how buildings are further devised or further enhanced to keep the heat coming in. Okay, this is anthropogenic heat, other heat. Okay, use of light, energy efficient lighting, energy efficient vehicles and transport, and so on and so forth. Okay, so and of course, if we like it or not, we will be using air conditions so that we achieve or we desire a comfortable temperature to live in a built space. So those active techniques or active strategies should be carefully chosen and energy efficient or green rated. There are star ratings for ACs, right? So like that, there are for each measures, each active strategies, there are specific specific standards, or you can see benchmark. Okay, so using high standard benchmark in all these cases will help in reducing the heat that is dissipated into city. So that's about building. The similar thing can be looked at from the urban scale. One is greening of urban areas, appropriate use of materials in the layouts and in the pathways, and in an urban infrastructure. As far as infrastructure is concerned, use of high albedo materials, okay, cooling areas accessible to everyone, making sure that parks and playgrounds and covered spaces are accessible to everyone. Okay, improvement of natural cycle in urban areas. Okay, low impact development, correct design of urban fabrics, and urban ventilation. Okay, normally we discuss about the ventilations at building level. Now we have sophisticated tools to analyze neighborhoods in at this scale, urban scale, city scale. And in one of my lectures, I have put that what are the tools that we use for all this. At that time, maybe I will show you with some example how large scale developments are analyzed using these kind of tools. And of course, the last thing is the anthropogenic heat, okay, reducing anthropogenic heat, okay. So getting rid of old transport systems, coming out with newer fuel run system, electric systems, and so on, okay, so that the anthropogenic heat is brought down, okay. It cannot be eliminated. These are the things that can be brought down. These are at broad urban scale. These are initiatives at building scale, okay. So these are the things that I wanted to highlight from both building and urban scale mitigation measures that we have in hand, okay, from UHA perspective. That is it from my side. If you have any questions, you can ask me, and if you need any clarifications, we can have a discussion on that. And then if nothing, then we can take we can discuss on the urban climate consultants, sorry, not urban climate consultant, climate consultant. Any questions?
I exactly do not remember the source, but I read it somewhere that these days, in some places, it may not be directly related to the urban heat island concept, but sir, like when a large number of solar panels are used on in a wide range of area,
Right.
so it is actually increasing the local temperature of that area. But sir, it is also a mechanism of renewable energy. So
Mm.
in that case, sir, what can be done to balance the whole situation?
Yeah, mm, that's a good question. And in fact, um, I don't have answer for it, but I will give you another dimension for the same question. Uh, we have streets, right? We did a study of street. Okay, we were trying to measure thermal comfort of this street. Let us say this is one street, okay. We were trying to measure uh, what is the thermal environment of this street, okay. And we have buildings on this side and we have buildings on this side, and we took instruments and we took devices and went and measured at different point of time what is the temperature here. At the same time, um, we also took interviews of the hawkers, pedestrians, okay, and the shop owners, okay, vendors, basically. And when we mapped all this, we saw one. These are buildings, okay. These are air-conditioned buildings, high commercial zones. But this is very busy street, one of the busy streets in Vijayawada. So we studied this. You'll be surprised, or we were also a little surprised. Uh, One of the major contributor for heat in this is all the AC units that is placed, okay, right on all the side. That's also one of the major contributor for heat. All the this is acting like a channel for dissipating heat, and we have all the outdoor units, AC outdoor units kept here, that is actually adding heat to the environment. And also, like you said, yes, if we use reflective surfaces, and maybe this will be more applicable if we have high-rise buildings and you have it's all the area is surrounded by high-rise building, and you have installed solar panels, and these will create more problem. Yeah, yes, true. And also there are some cases where it's been studied that uh, we apply paints, right? White paints. You must have seen cool material. Okay, you apply white paint to all the terraces. What does it? The intent is to reflect the heat back into the atmosphere. Actually, we are not solving the problem. Okay, we are actually leaving the problem into the environment. Okay, we what we have done is we have tried to minimize the problem here, but we have added the problem into back into the atmosphere. Okay, yes, there is no Yes, there could be a possibility, like you said, that will add to the heat. And how do we come out with is it depends on how what material that we use, how the system is designed properly, all that. Yes, there are so many things. In fact, I'll tell you one more example. Normally, we see water body um, as what cooling. Water body as evaporative coolers in cities. There are case studies done in some European context. Because of water body, the temperature of that area has gone up. Okay, so there are counter studies on that as well, because that's why everything has to be looked from scientific perspective. Okay, so appropriate size of water body, appropriate depth of water body, and how much it is covered, and all that also have an impact on immediate microclimate. To simply say yes, there is a possibility. To answer your question, yes, there is a possibility that that might happen. Okay, any other question that we have? Otherwise, we can quickly see uh, the tool, and then I will leave you. No, no questions. Okay, then I will. What I'll do is I'll just uh, I'll go to this slide. Okay, maybe. Yeah. Okay. Right. What you can do is you can actually, can you see my screen or is visible? Slide is, can you see the Google screen that I have opened? No. Okay, then maybe I have to share. Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. Now? Yeah. We were actually saying climate consultant. What you do is you just type this. Since I already have installed, so I have the tool in hand. But I just for your sake, uh, type climate consultant. There is one website called Energy Design Tools. Okay, click on this. Okay, you can download the current version based on your system configuration. Okay, so and then install it. Okay, so once you install it, I will open climate consultant here. Yeah, is it visible now, the climate consultant screen? Yeah, so this is the software, and once you open it, you will be able to see something like this. Okay, so there are so many things, broad things that is mentioned here. I'll go to directly. I'll explain you how you can read the data from it. Okay, go to next. Select our previous product. Let us start a new project. Um, just yeah. What I do is I'll just say start new project. Okay, it will ask you whether you want this kind of strategy. What are we looking for in climate consultant? Can somebody tell me, apart from architect, or maybe architect can also respond? What are we looking for in climate consultant? not material, strategies, passive strategies. Strategies, so yeah. Yes, yes, yeah. Okay, so choose appropriate type of building. I'll use this material as well. Sorry, metrics, which kind of metrics that you want to use, and then you need to have a weather file. Okay, so if you already have weather file, you can open it from the existing one. Since no, I don't have, or maybe I'll download it here, or download from the web open source weather files and then take it. We need EPW file for it. Let's say I will go to this and I'll look for some weather file in Asia, India, and let's see. mm, Kolkata is there. Maybe we need EPW file. Hmm. I'll keep this in desktop just for. Or, there is a way to do directly also. Maybe I will just take 1 minute. I'll put it in the climate. Uh, okay, so maybe what I do is open. Just 1 minute. I will figure it out. Sorry. DPT file. Um, okay. I think what I do is I will just let's not waste time. I'll tell you how this can be done. Okay. I'll bring it to you. Maybe I'll see how it can be done. Let us assume we take one EPW file. Okay. For now. Okay, since I have saved it in desktop, so I'm just opening that. Okay, so this is the data set that we have. Okay, so it talks about the various parameters. Okay, horizontal radiation, global radiation, dry bulb temperature, wet bulb temperature, wind directions, and so on and so forth. Okay, So if you go next, then it will ask you what is that you want. Okay, so there are different models of studying heat. Okay, thermal comfort basically. So I'll put adaptive thermal comfort model by ASHRAE 55. So this is one of the models, thermal comfort models that we have. Based on that, strategies will be given, generated. So I'll choose this, and these things you can, if you know, if you have recorded from the site, and if you want to modify some of the data from it, you can do it. Otherwise you can leave the data set as it is. Okay, so this tells you the profile. Okay, I'll just put the data. Okay, so this is temperature range. What is the maximum temperature and minimum temperature monthly, and this is the average bandwidth in it. And we have diurnal temperature difference between night and day. Okay, and radiation range, illumination level, sky cover, wind. Okay, then ground temperature, dry bulb, and relative humidity together put as this. These are sun shading chart. Actually, maybe there is one tool. Maybe if possible I can explain you that also. The main thing that we are looking for is this. Okay, this is called psychometric chart. So, based on all this input, okay, so a chart is prepared. Okay, it's called psychometric chart based on adaptive comfort model. So this tells you which part of the the temperature zone is comfortable in the case of Kolkata, and how much. This is for annual. Okay, for example, actually based on the report, based on this model, it says there is 0 comfort hours. There's no comfortable hours as per the climatic data that we have. Okay, so if you see, if you use adaptive comfort ventilation, let us say adaptive comfort ventilation means even removing shirt or turning on this fan, opening the window can also be an adaptive strategy. Okay, so if we can do that, we will be comfortable for almost 3895 hours. So it is given in terms of hours. Okay, so which are the areas also where discomfort is felt? All these red dots are discomfort zones. Okay, so where we need strategies to improve this. So if you overall, if you see, 44% of the time, okay, in throughout the year is comfortable from the perspective of adaptive comfort standard. Let's say if we open up the window, or if we use right clothing, or if we use right ventilation, then 44% of the time in the entire year we will feel comfortable, and 56% of the time it's not comfortable, and we need appropriate strategies to bring this down further. So what are these strategies is what we are looking for. So for example, let us say these are suggestive strategies that can be taken from this further. For example, let's say good ventilation can reduce or eliminate air conditioning in the warmer weather if windows are well shaded and oriented to prevailing wind conditions. Okay, so descriptive ideas are given. Okay, what does this mean? Okay, when you say this is one strategy, so how does it look, how figuratively, and how do you make it into the building? Another example, let's say to capture natural ventilation, wind direction can be changed up to 45 degree towards building and exterior wing walls. There's no image for this. There is no image for this as well. Yeah, traditional passive homes in warm and humid use high ceiling and operable French windows. Okay, so this is one strategy that is suggested for this. Traditional passive house, traditional passive house in temperate climate. Okay, based on the conditions we can choose, we can see what are the strategies that can be adopted. So this is one of the simplest tool that is available with us, where we can explore just by giving the weather file. We'll be able to get the some strategies done from it. Okay. Okay, so and then this is a Windrose diagram. Okay, so which tells you where do we get maximum wind from all the cardinal side from where these are the sites where we can actually uh, get higher wind speed. Okay, so that you can keep in mind. Okay, so this is one simplest tool that you can think of using in your applications.